You know, for most of us, faith is a pretty personal thing, right? It's quiet. But every now and then, it shows up in the real world in ways that are just mind-blowing. Today, we're diving into two stories about a family of singers whose devotion was so intense, it actually bent the rules of reality. Let's get into it.
So, just how special were these singers? Well, imagine this. Their songs were so full of spirit, so powerful, that Lord Nityananda himself couldn't help but dance whenever he heard them sing. I mean, we're not just talking about a good concert here. This was a direct, powerful connection to the divine.
So who were these guys? They were a trio of brothers, Vasudeva, Madhava, and Govinda Ghoṣa. They were famous for their incredible voices and were really close with their spiritual masters, Nitai Gauranga. They were known for writing these beautiful songs about divine events, and in doing that, well, they ended up becoming part of some pretty wild stories themselves. Let's start with Govinda Ghoṣa. His story is just incredible. It shows you how one tiny, almost random act of service can completely change your entire life's path. And for him, it all started with, believe it or not, a piece of fruit.
So here's what happened. Their spiritual master, Lord Mahaprabhu, asked for a special fruit called a haritaki. Govinda runs and gets one. The next day, trying to be helpful, he offers up a fruit he'd saved from the day before. But Mahaprabhu saw this in a totally different way. He basically said, "Aha, you're a saver. Since you like to save things, you need to stay here, get married, and dedicate your life to worshiping this deity, Gopinathaji." Just like that, his whole life was turned upside down, all because he saved one little piece of fruit. Crazy, right?
And you know what? Govinda did it. He obeyed. He got married, had a son, and he really built this beautiful, peaceful life centered on caring for the deity Gopinathaji. But that peace wasn't going to last. An absolutely unimaginable tragedy was right around the corner, and it was going to test his faith like never before.
I mean, it was just one heartbreak after another. First, his wife passed away. And then, his son, the son who helped him with his worship every single day, he died too, leaving Govinda completely and utterly alone with his grief.
And he was just broken. Drowning in anger and sorrow, Govinda just gave up. He stopped cooking, he stopped eating, and he made a shocking decision. He decided to let his other son starve. And I know what you're thinking right now. Wait, what other son? I thought he only had one.
Well, that other son, it was Gopinathaji, the deity. See, for Govinda, this was never just some statue he did rituals for. He had this incredibly deep, personal, father-son relationship with the deity. He cared for it, he fed it, he loved it exactly like he loved his own biological son.
So that night, as Govinda's just lying there in his grief, something completely unbelievable happens. The deity, Gopinathaji, actually came to him and spoke. He said, "I just don't get it. One of your sons dies, and so you decide, well, I guess the other one should just starve too?"
Govinda, you can imagine, is just heartbroken and totally confused. And he just replies, I don't know what you're talking about. I only had one son."
And then came the line that changed everything. The deity says, "Am I not your son too? You've been feeding me, taking care of me, just like a son." It was this incredible moment where the relationship he had poured his heart into was being confirmed from the other side. And this just snaps Govinda out of it. But he's still thinking practically, He has this very real, very human worry. He says, well, okay, but now there's no one to perform my Shraddha ceremony after I die, the sacred rites a son performs for his father. So he just puts it out there, a challenge, really. He asks the deity, "Are you going to do that for me?"
And the deity's answer was so simple, yet so powerful. "Yes, of course I can. Why not?" And then, just to gently bring him back to his duty, he adds, "So, are you going to feed me now?" In that one exchange, the divine took on the role of a son, and with that promise, pulled Govinda back from the absolute edge of despair. Okay, so that's Govinda's story. Now let's talk about his brother, Vasudeva, because he also went through a devastating loss. But his reaction to grief, wow, it was totally different, but just as dramatic. So when Vasudeva got the news that their spiritual master, Mahaprabhu, had left this world, he was shattered. Absolutely shattered. He just couldn't see any reason to go on living. So what does he do?
He goes out, he digs his own grave, a samadhi, and he gets inside just waiting to die. But right at that moment, as he was about to give up his final breath, Mahaprabhu himself appeared to him in a vision, stepping in to save his life.
Okay, now here's what's so cool about all of this. These aren't just stories from some dusty old book. They're living history. These mind-blowing moments left behind real, tangible legacies, things you can actually still see and witness today.
And get this, Gopinathaji kept his promise. To this very day, every single year on the anniversary of Govinda's passing, the Gopinathaji deity actually performs the ancestral rites for him. And for Vasudeva, well, in the town of Tamluk, they created a one-of-a-kind deity of Mahaprabhu, capturing the exact pose he was in when he saved Vasudeva from that tomb.
And the details here are just wow. When it's time for the ceremony, the Gopinathaji deity is dressed in simple white cloth, the traditional way, and they even put a kusa grass ring on his finger, just like a son would wear. And that deity of Mahaprabhu in Tamluk, it has this unique hand position, this mudra, that you won't find on any other deity in the world. One hand is giving a blessing, and the other is beckoning Vasudeva to come out of the hole.
So all of this leaves us with a really deep question to think about. I mean, we usually think of devotion as a one-way street, right? We serve, we pray, we give. But these stories of the Ghosh brothers, they point to something way more profound. They suggest it's a two-way street, a real relationship. So it really makes you wonder, what does it mean when the very being you worship starts taking care of you?